This is Christian Semlitch here, and I have the honor to make an interview with Frank Mulcahy. Frank is an expert in his field, and I'm sure this will be an interesting interview for you because this is for all those who are using computers, smartphones, and other electronic devices, and also using the internet. Frank, it's an honor to have you here. Would you like to introduce yourself and what you are doing?
Absolutely, Christian. I appreciate it. And I know that you and I, when we were speaking in Dubai, well, I guess it's going back about 16, 17 months now. Yep. We were talking about cybersecurity and the inherent risk that everybody faced by using the internet with the mobility that we have. And however, since then, as everybody's totally aware, we had this international lockdown for the first time in human history. Everybody is like quarantined, and businesses are jockeying, trying to, find a new norm, try to provide services to their existing customers. So we got in a situation where we find people now with makeshift offices at the kitchen table.
Yeah.
And the kids are at home, and the dogs are barking, and they got to do house chores. And what's happened is that people have taken cybersecurity and put it on the back burner, when in fact, the crooks, it's often said that a crook never lets a good opportunity go to waste. So at the same time, the crooks have elevated their game about how they're utilizing the people in the remote working and the work at home, and they're taking advantage of it, and they're just causing havoc and chaos clear across the globe when it comes to cybersecurity. So that's what's happened since the last time I've seen you, is that it's gone through the roof, and it's devastating.
Yeah, it's devastating. And I think people are aware of cybersecurity when they are working in their companies. Usually they are better secured than they are at home, but now they were and are working at home. Mm-hmm. And of course, security is not at the same place and not as strong as when they are in the companies. So this is causing massive problems, and I would like you to tell us a little bit more about these problems that are occurring for all of those who are at home and using these nice smart devices.
Yeah. I mean, we could go on for hours, and we've got such a short period of time to discuss it. But I told you I'd make a promise to you, and I'd send a link to you that to a webinar that you're certainly welcome to use it with any of your followers or any of your customers.
Fantastic.
Because again, I travel around the globe to do this. Matter of fact, I'm doing a webinar in a couple of days for a firm out of Mumbai, India. And he just told me that there's probably people from about 11 different countries already signed up for it. So what we're going to discuss, it's not just a United States problem. Certainly we have the burden of being the #1 target of cyber criminals in the world. The United States is actually 62% of all identity theft that happens in the world happens in the United States. And but yet equally around the globe, I don't care whether it's in Europe or it's in Asia or it's, in South America. One of the things that everybody has to accept is what I call cybersecurity awareness training. Yep. Cybersecurity awareness, right?
You just mentioned identity theft. Could you please go a little bit into that? Because here, when I promote it on Facebook or on social media where there's a lot of private people, identity theft might be something that a lot of people are not aware.
Well, they're aware of the words, but they're not aware of what the damages are.
Yep.
Right. And so what I mean by that is that, if you line up 100 people and you ask them, what is identity theft? And the first thing they say is, well, somebody took my credit card or somebody hacked into my bank account. Couldn't be further from the truth. Couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah, that's the reason I was asking.
Yeah. Identity theft. I want people to think of this. What is your digital DNA? right? And here's what I mean by that. Go back to the very first school. Matter of fact, go back to when you were born in the United States. We have what's called a Social Security number, right? And that's used to go through life and go through taxation and all that. But it's given when you're at the hospital, when you're born. Now, it never changes for the rest of your life. And so if a crook gets a hold of that Social Security number for a 1-year-old, they can use that number. And in the United States, the family doesn't know about it until the kid turns 18 and gets their own credit report from the credit reporting bureaus, right? Because basically it's inactive and it's only used for insurance and school purposes. So the crooks are destroying the opportunity for children to go to higher education because they're using part of that child's, they're using the Social Security number and putting it with another name. And it's what we call synthetic identity theft. Synthetic identity theft. I may take your driver's license and my date of birth and my Social Security number and somebody else's addresses and make a whole brand new person. So now everybody's impacted, but yet it's harder to detect. But I want you to stop and think about this as well. Every time that you got an insurance policy, motor vehicle registration, every time you got a credit card, a job application, anytime you did a home mortgage application, anytime you filled out a job interview, you went on Netflix or you went to Amazon or you went on Emirates Airline. All these people have our data and our professional licenses and our security clearances. As international travelers, we have here in the States what's called global entry. Well, I got to go through security to get the global entry, and then I'm able to go, in and out of customs relatively quickly. Well, that's part of my digital DNA, right? So imagine being in a foreign country, and then all of a sudden some cyber crook, half a world away, uses your digital DNA, and now you're the one that's getting arrested. Because if they're gonna take your credit card, Christian, what else are they capable of doing?
Yeah.
Can they commit fraud? Or how about this one? Can they go on the dark web and order illicit products using your financial information? And what I mean by that, and we'll talk about the dark web here in a minute, but the dark web is the underbelly of the internet. It's where it runs with, you can't see it. It's anonymity, right? So you got the regular web. You want to go into Google. You want to go see the news on the New York Times or the Washington Post, and that's only 4% of the internet traffic. But then we got the deep web, which is where we have to use a username and a password, and that's the biggest problem right there. Your passwords. We'll talk about that. But you put in a username and a password to access an account. That's the deep web. That is about 90% of the internet. The bottom 6% is called the dark web. And the dark web is where the crooks operate with anonymity. It's where the crooks go in and they actually, you can't track them down. Sometimes it's pirate ships out in the ocean, but it's going from server to server to server to server. And as a result of that, what the crooks have done is they set up underground auction sites, just like eBay, right? Just like going to Amazon and saying, hey, I want to buy this, I want to buy that. Only the difference is they say, I want to buy heroin, I want to buy opioids, I want to buy fentanyl, I want to buy weapons, I want to buy slave labor, child pornography, trade secrets. I want to take the stolen databases so I can become a crook. I want to take the courses to use how to use the stolen databases so I can become the crook. And this is what's happening, is that our information is being bought and sold down there. And so when I talk about your digital DNA, once it's down there, you can't get it back. Yep. You can't get it back. And so that's the underbelly of the true sense of what is identity theft. How it happens, that's a totally different subject.
Yeah. Frank, tell us something about how to protect ourselves from identity theft. What can we do what helps us best to protect ourselves?
You have to take cyber awareness courses. You have to study up. You have to be preventive. Obviously, if somebody's concerned about their health, and let's say that a family has a history of heart disease or family has a history of cancer, maybe the females have breast cancer. You and I know that most people are going to go in and study when it comes close to home, right? What my diet, what about my physical activity, what should I avoid instead of working at the chemical plant? When danger comes close to somebody's home, in the health field now, they take all these preemptive measures, right? Well, I want everybody to understand you will be a victim of identity theft. It's not a matter of if. It's not a matter of when. It's a matter of how many times, folks.
Oh my God.
And I'll give it in perspective. In the United States, we have 326 million people, but in the last 10 years, we have had over 6.5 billion pieces of information compromised. 6.5 billion, right? Which means that's 19 times for every single person, including the newborns in the United States. So tell me, what would make me feel comfortable that I'm not going to be the victim, that I'm not going to pay the price? Because again, I just shared with you that there's this system where people can go out there and purchase this information online. And I'll give you an example. I did a webinar yesterday for a big company down here in Texas, and I used an example of a recent breach at Facebook, right? They lost 550 million pieces of information.
Wow.
And was sold on the dark web for $500 US. $500 US. Now, it didn't have all the data. It had usernames, it had passwords, it had unique identifying information, had some addresses, but it didn't have the credit cards. But you know what? It doesn't need the credit cards, right? They pretext. They take that information and then they match it up. And the passwords, look, if they got the password for Facebook, it's sad to say that we're probably going to get into your other accounts if we had that. Because too many people, because they don't have cybersecurity awareness training, they're not taking this serious until after the event happens. But what they're doing is they're using the same password on multiple accounts. Yep. Right? I read a study earlier this month, and they said that the average user has about 85 to 90 accounts where they use a password. And if you stop and think about it, it's every place you shop, every place you bank, every place you do any kind of access, your email, right, your Twitter account, your LinkedIn account, your Facebook account. And if we can get a stolen database where we got your Facebook password, then what the crooks do, they call it credential stuffing. They'll take that password, but they'll go over to your other accounts and force it out there. And they'll say, I got in it. Because most people use 4 or 5 passwords. But again, they have 80 and 90 accounts, right? So this is the cybersecurity awareness. Your medical ID, your medical records. Here in the United States, because we have private insurance, some people don't have insurance. They have to go into Medicare or Medicaid or something like that. But if somebody takes my insurance, because I've got pretty good insurance, and they go in and get treatment in another city or in another state, we have an Electronics Medical Record Act in the United States, which means all of our records are electronic. So if I'm traveling, for instance, Christian, and I go up to Massachusetts and I get in an accident, they're going to pull up my blood type quickly, my underlying medical. But if somebody else used my ID, and I didn't know it because I wasn't being cyber aware, my records would be altered. Okay. And then I get in an accident, I could basically get the wrong treatment, which you and I both know could be catastrophic.
Yeah.
So again, your digital DNA is so deep. Imagine if you're a professional and you have to have a professional license, or you have to have security clearances. Well, what happens when the cyber crook uses your ID?
Yeah.
You lose your professional license, you lose your security clearances.
Yeah. I would like to point out that special thing that you just mentioned before. People have 60 to 80 accounts and are using usually 4 to 5, maybe 10 different kind of passwords, because that's something that works internationally. Everyone can take care of their passwords, change them, maybe bring some systematic into it, or nothing. There are password generators that really give you some whatever kind of passwords. Can we trust these password generators? Do you know something about that?
You have to research them. Okay. Everybody asks, which one do you recommend? I don't want to get in trouble and recommend one, and then all of a sudden they go rogue. Because when we do these recordings, they're out there forever. But there are several out there. I would go to some of your trade magazines, whatever country you're in.
Yep.
So if you have a computer centric type, where we all know in our different countries what magazines we can trust, right? And I would go in there and ask which one. They're called password management systems. Okay, and basically here's how they work. They work like a vault, right? Like a safe.
Yep.
So when we travel and we go to these different hotels, we put everything in the safe in the room, right? I mean, I don't stay at a hotel if it doesn't have a safe in the room. I don't, right? Because I don't want to carry my passport down to the pool or the workout gym or the dinner, but I don't want to leave it in the room either. So I need to have a vault. So your password management systems work like this. You have one password up here in your head, and that lets you into the vault. And then when you get into the password management system, you go to each account, whether it's your Netflix account, your mortgage account, your insurance accounts, whatever it is, and it will automatically generate an encryption-grade password for that account. And every time you visit that account, whether it's on a mobile handheld device or it's whether on your laptop or whatever, it will generate that password. So the only downside is you cannot forget what that one password is.
There is no chance to regenerate that, right?
Because theoretically, the companies that you get the password management system from, they don't keep your password.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, maximum security.
Yeah, about as best as it can get. However, if you really want to go to a higher level, there's also what's called security keys. Okay. Now, security key will work very similar to a small USB thumb drive, right? And what that means is that, and I have one, and when I want to go into my computer and start going to the sites, I have to put this in my computer.
Okay.
And I have another adapter so that it'll go into my Android, okay? But this security key is what's allowing all the passwords to go back and forth under encryption. And you can get those for $40 to $80, $90. But again, don't lose the key.
Frank,
so it's not perfect.
Yeah,
it's not perfect.
There is no system that is perfect, but I think you just gave us two answers or two possibilities to really protect us. Security key that you just mentioned, or this security management systems. Besides, of course, these password generators. I saw some of them. They're also very interesting, but in fact, we need to have something that is really unique. Especially
and biometrics is coming a long way. It does have its downside. It does have its flaw. I mean, Apple just yesterday figured out how to take the pictures while you still got the mask on. That's kind of crazy. But what happens when you have identical twins, right?
Yeah, but the fingerprint is not the same, even for identical prints, right?
Yep, yeah, but the fingerprint has already been proved that it can be hacked. We have a program over here in the United States, the Discovery Channel, and there was this program called Mythbusters. Right, you can look it up online, Mythbusters, fingerprint edition. This guy Jamie, he's a quacky scientist, you know, and he's trying to beat all of these door locks where you have to use your fingerprint,
yep.
Biometrics. And he was trying all kinds of synthetics. He just couldn't get it to work. But then with the synthetic latex on his finger, put his hand up to his mouth like this, and he wet it. He said, well, I'll try that. And it worked. Okay. It had the moisture.
Yep.
And the fingerprint opened the door lock. And that was 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. So listen, anything can be hacked. Anything can be hacked. Yeah. Whether it's from the outside, and depending on what study we see, it goes anywhere from 50 to 74%. They say that data breaches here in the North American continent, 60 to 70% are human error. Because we're careless, we're cavalier, we're casual. I'll give you an example for everybody that's listening to us. How many times have you gone to a hotel lobby or a coffee shop, right? And y'all have Starbucks over there in Germany and Switzerland?
Yeah.
Okay. So you go to Starbucks or Panera Bread or any of whatever your shop is, and there's two entries for the Wi-Fi, right? Starbucks, where you need a password to get in, and then Starbucks, but no password.
Yeah.
Which one do you click?
I usually use the password, but a lot of people who are going there, who are staying in the neighborhood, they're using the free password, of course. But the
80% of them, 80% of them use the free password. 80%. Well, guess what? That is not a Starbucks connection. That is a cyber crook that set up a hotspot. And while you're sitting there having your latte and going in and doing your email and putting in your logins and you're going into your different accounts, they're in your system with you. They're in your system with you. I would highly tell everybody, don't use any system in the public arena without having a VPN, a virtual private network. Because then everything that comes and goes is encrypted from your end coming in and out, and nobody can snoop in and see what you're doing. You got to get a good VPN, and they're cheap. They're only a couple, $3, $4 a month, right? Yep. A virtual private network. And let's go back to the remote and the work from home. You have a virtual private network at the office, right? But everybody had to do this emergency, sending everybody to home, and they're using their own personal devices, and most of them didn't have VPN, yeah. And that's when the crooks are getting right into their systems from there. So you need to do that. And one other hint for the travelers, right? We're always traveling. We're going to the coffee shop. We're going to the airport terminal, and our cell phones are running low, and there's a charging station. So you go in and you plug it in so you can charge your device up before you get on the plane. Don't do it. Avoid it. It's called juice jacking. Juice jacking. What it means is they're actually downloading a virus while you think that you're charging the phone. Yeah. Be cautious of any public access that's going to let you charge your device.
Okay. Frank, this was incredibly valuable, I think, for all of us who are not really aware of the different kinds of threats that we are having. I really appreciate that you were taking your free time during the weekend to have that call and to give us all of these information. Frank, where can we find more information about identity theft or cybersecurity?
So a couple of places you can go. You can reach out to me. All of my contact is at what's called callfrank.today. Callfrank.today. Okay. And that's what we call a digital business card, right? And it's got links for my LinkedIn and you know my Facebook and my YouTube. That's one way. But go to youtube.com and then / my name, Frank Mulcahy. youtube.com/Frank Mulcahy, because I'm loading out lots of videos, instruction, and it talks about juice jacking. Another one will be talk about password management. Another one will be talking about medical identity theft and LinkedIn identity theft and virtual private networks. So as the crooks are ever vigilant, coming out with new ways that they're taking advantage of us, it's not difficult for me to go record a 2 or 3 minute cybersecurity awareness moment, is what I call them. It's free. They should subscribe to it, because effective in June, I'll be actually, for all the subscribers, I'll be posting out, hey, there's another video. You're welcome to go look at it, share it with your friends. So it's just, I'm at the point in my life right now that I'll be 69 and my birthday next week, and there's no way I'm going to retire. The crooks have me. The crooks have me so vigilant, and I love being able to bring in layman's terms, if you would, how people can become cyber aware. Okay, don't call me if you want me to program all your computers and the hardware and the software. That's for the technical wizards. But my whole life, I've studied two things. I've studied human behavior and technology. And that's where we have the convergence. We have the technology and we have the human behavior, and the human behavior is responsible for probably at least 75% of all identity theft going on worldwide. So everybody here, if we just have a little bit of cybersecurity awareness on a regular basis and share it with our children, share it with everybody we know at our work, then together we can deter, detect, and defend against this threat. And so that would be my advice to somebody, is become cybersecurity aware. It doesn't cost you to join the YouTube channel.
Good, fantastic. I thank you, Frank, for taking the time and giving us all of this very, very precious advice. So, Frank, I wish you a fantastic weekend. We will speak later on. And
appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, I even learned something out of this call during, although we had so many hours together, spent so many hours together in Dubai and Bahrain, and we were sharing stage together and having dinner and lunch. So reach out for Frank if you have some issues with that. Go to his sites, go to his YouTube channels. You will learn a lot about identity theft, about cybersecurity. And please protect yourself. We are in pandemic and want to stay safe, medical wise, but we don't take care of our security, of our cybersecurity. We are using a few passwords for a huge amount of websites, which is a massive threat for your whole life and for your family. Please be aware of that, because the virus is going over, but cybersecurity and identity theft, they will stay. And as you heard Frank saying, it's not a matter of when, it's not a matter of if, but of how many times. So be aware of that. So thank you for all of you watching this interview. And Frank, again, thank you and have a fantastic time. And please stay with us as long as possible. And I want to see you live again.